Okay, the last piece I think that we need to learn to design clear and correct functions is to know how to write unit tests in a language. In Elixir, we are going to look at how do we write those tests and then how do we run those tests. So we are going to continue with the example that we have been working with for the last few videos, where we have been designing our greet module and we have designed two functions. One is the greet with no arguments, and then the second is the greet with one argument. We have already added a purpose to our function, and we have also added the spec statements to our functions. Now we want to look at how do we write the unit tests. So if my file name is called greet, the first step to write unit tests is to start with creating a test script. So the test script in an Elixir project will go into a test directory. So if we know what directories we have, the key directories that we have been working, or just a single directory that we have looked so far, is the lib. That's where my implementation code is. And now we are going to look at the test. So we are going to create a test file in the test directory. So let's do that. And the name of the file that we are going to create is going to start with the name of the module for which we're going to write the test underscore test dot. The extension is going to be EXS. So note that this is a new extension that we are looking at. The module extensions were .ex, and then the test extension is .exs. Without going into the details of the differences between the two extensions, we only want to note here that the test files are quote-unquote script files, which does not need to be compiled by Elixir, whereas the module files, the implementation files, for example the greet on the top, which ends with .ex, are the Elixir files that need to be compiled before they could be run. Alright, so let's create this file, and then on the top we are going to look at this file. Let's open this file up, and this is our greet underscore test. Right now it is empty. Let's start writing the first test for us. So as with the greet.ex file, we have to start with a module. This module will be called greet test, and then the first line in a test file is going to start with use xunit dot case. So this will bring in the test functionality that Elixir would need to test the to run the tests that we are going to write, and then we can start writing our test. So to write our first test, we are going to look at this function. We are going to test the function greet and make sure it does produces the string hello world. So for that, let's start with writing that test. We will start with test space, and then in double quotes you write the name of the tests. So we are going to say greet 0, for example, should produce, you could say hello world, right? So that's the name of the test. followed by do block, and inside the do block we are going to make an assertion. So that will start with assert. On the left side of the assertion we are going to call our function. So we are going to say greet must produce double equals hello world. So there you have it. So we have written our first test for this module. So let's see how to run that test. So for that we'll go down to the terminal, and then we are going to run mix space test. So once we run it, we see that we missed something. So it is saying completion error, and I know what I've done wrong. So in this case it's saying it's undefined function. So I'll go back here, and the reason it's saying it is undefined is I did not write the module name in front of it. So we are going to write that module name and then go back to our terminal again and run mix test, and then yes, so it says running XUnit with some seed and 1 test 0 failures. So that means I have written 1 test and that test has passed. So let's see what the failure of a test would look like. For that we'll go back to our test file, and I'm going to let's say delete the character W from it, right? And once we do that, we'll come back to terminal, run our test again using mix test, and as you can see now it is failing the test because at the last line it's saying 1 test and 1 failure. And if you look at the top side, it's saying the problem is with this assertion greet.greet equals hello.orld, and it is very clear in the next couple of lines where it shows us that the left side is producing hello world, whereas the right side, which is the expectation, is the hello world, and that's the problem. So we'll go back, fix our function, run the test again so that it's back to passing again. So that's how you write a unit test in Elixir. We're going to write one more test just for the sake of practice. So let's go ahead and write a second test for the second function. If you want to do it yourself, you can feel free to pause this video and write 1 or 2 tests for the second function, and then you can come back to watch what I have written for that test case. Anyways, so we'll start with again writing test, and we're going to say greet1 should produce a personalized greeting, right? We start the do block, we start the assert statement, and then we are going to write greet, and then let's say Elixir, and that should be equal to hello Elixir. So that's what we are expecting. So let's see if our expectation is good or not. So now we are going to run the mix test again, and once we run it, it says 2 tests 0 failure. So that's how you write unit tests in Elixir.